This is Steve Zeltzer with Workweek, and the strike of 45,000 ILA Longshore workers was very important, the first one in many decades, but also it raised the question of AI and robotics. And many of the signs the workers held talked about robotics taking their jobs and the need to protect employment for Longshore. And joining us today is Joel Schor. He's a working ILWU Longshore worker who has been studying the effects of technology on the docks and what it means in AI for workers in the United States. So welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Maybe you can talk about the issue of AI and robotics because it was an important issue, and there are some articles in the New York Times suggesting that the longshoremen should just take automation. You can't protect the jobs, and already the docks in China are already automated. So where does that leave ILA and other workers? The contract has not been resolved, at least the issue of automation and AI. They did have a settlement on wages, but if there are no jobs, you're not going to have any wages. And that's what a lot of workers were saying, that they are concerned with this. And for the Screen Actors Guild and the Writers Guild, they called it an existential issue. What is the situation for longshore workers in the United States at this point and the ILA?
Just like to preface, I'm not actually in the ILA. I'm in the ILWU, which is the West Coast longshoremen. Couple parts to that question. So the situation with automation and robotics in the stevedoring industry in general. On the West Coast, there are 2 or more fully automated ports in Southern California: Long Beach, LA Long Beach Terminal, AP Moller, Maersk. Now, when you're talking about artificial intelligence specifically, the kind of artificial intelligence it's using is a machine learning kind of AI. There's different kinds of AI. There's AI you might use with your smartphone or something where you input the data and then the algorithm gets more and more based on what you're inputting. And then there's a kind that learns, which is what the Writers Guild people were mainly up in or creative people mainly complaining about, because that's the kind that learns maybe by looking at creative content and then creating more, learning from that, and then spitting out something new based on what that kind of an algorithm, which learns it gets its own data from the outside and comes up with something new. So the combination of those two things, the data being inputted and then the entity learning from its environment, is what you get with something like a self-driving car, which right now they're being tested on the streets in San Francisco. They haven't got them for over the highway use, but they are being used in port terminals. Same kind of technology you see with those cars driving around San Francisco that they tried to fight at the state level. The very same job that I do, I should say, is being replaced. It's already been replaced in the ports of LA, Long Beach, AP, Moller, Maersk. That is what you call a UTR tractor driver. Now, the ILWU contract allowed for automation back in 2008, allowed for the employers to implement new technologies. Okay, this was in the contract as long as the ILWU maintained jurisdiction over maintenance and repair work. These are like mechanic jobs. So to the extent that that automation has occurred using artificial intelligence, has been within the bounds of the contract. During our last contract negotiations, which were not in the exact details of them, was not made apparent to the rank and file. They were closed door. Much was said about automation, and Harold Daggett, president of the ILA, made a very bodacious statement during that he would not allow any automation on the East Coast. He was very adamant about this. Now, there already are automated terminals on the East Coast in the port of Newark, New Jersey, as he was saying that. So, I mean, it's in a way foolhardy to slam your fist on the table. It looks very macho and tough, but it doesn't do anything. In a way, you can't do anything by just saying that when it's already happening. And to a certain extent, it's already been agreed to. We should find ways, and the ILA, is supposedly trying to find ways of countering the automation, getting more out of it, in the same vein that the ILW did back with the M&M agreements, offering people, for instance, early retirement, or what I think needs to happen is, finding ways of getting more control over the job, some way or another. But these things they're already happening, and yes, we need to save the jobs. The question of what to do about it is kind of it's it's really a bigger question, Steve. Yeah, ultimately, if we're going to talk about what we're going to do about this in terms of saving blue collar jobs, and the legacy that our union has as a more or less democratically controlled union, blue collar union in the transportation industry, we we have to take on some of the bigger issues around the environment and ecology, and figure out how we can be part of something that's going to ultimately be sustainable, and not allow the employers and the government to come up with some kind of scheme how they say they're going to electrify the ports and bring in automation under the guise of cutting carbon emissions under their plan. But we need to be thinking of a way we can do this. Even if it means completely restructuring the maritime industry as we know it, i.e., containers. It really would require some different kind of thinking about this.
The issue of who's running the government, who's running the Democrats, Republicans, they take money from the employers and they accept capitalism. They accept capitalist ownership of the docks. You have the biggest capitalist companies in the world, Goldman Sachs, SSA. They're in this business for profit, and they're going to make more profit by getting rid of longshoremen. Isn't that what they're saying?
Yeah, sure. They're saying that, but whether they say that or not, the technology's there. Okay, you cannot say that you're just going to fight this and stop it, because you're not going to. And we need to understand what this technology is, and if we're going to be what we are, people who load and unload cargo from seagoing vessels, there needs to be some way that we can present that we can do this kind of work and it'd be beneficial to society. Because right now they are going to be able to use the excuse that they're doing this for the benefit of everyone, bringing in automation and thereby getting the approval of the government to electrify the ports or do whatever it is they're going to do to cut carbon emissions without the input of us, or not having it be controlled in any way by people who actually are doing the work, just handed down by directives.
And you think labor needs
yeah,
their own political representatives to do that? You think you're going to do that through the Democratic Party?
Steve, maybe it has to be a workers' party. We talk about something like the Green New Deal. Okay, I think it has to go beyond that, because it can't just be something that's handed down to us by the government. We have to be the unions, the people who are doing the work have to be involved in the planning of whatever it is that's going to happen. We can't act like artificial intelligence and automation is some kind of conspiracy theory. It's not a conspiracy. We're capable of understanding these things. We got to stop acting like we think aliens are coming to attack us or something. This is a lot of the kind of reaction that goes wrong. It is the way that automation has gone down historically ever since the 1970s, is in such a way where the workers on the job lose control over the job process. It used to, in the heyday of the ILWU, when we gained our jurisdiction, we had a lot of control over each piece of cargo coming on and off ships, because we were able to manually control it by the kind of we were close to the technology. Let me put it to you that way. You had cranes that were on ships and gangs that worked closely with them, that closely were involved in the loading and unloading process. Now all these kinds of load and unload plans, they're pre-planned weeks ahead of time first by planners. Now it's being, you can see with AI, this is being done by algorithms as the ships get bigger and bigger. So as you're going to work every day on the docks, you have less and less control over what is actually going on. Everything is some kind of pre-planned algorithm or program, whatever you want to call it. The technology itself may be maybe we have to put our foot down in certain cases, but we have to realize that it's what is here also. 2008, we did agree to that. They already have automated ports in LA Long Beach. So I think really the best way for us to gain control over it ultimately is you would have to descale the industry. I mean, we don't need all these containers coming in and out of the ports all the time. It's ridiculous. We can use our skills and the kind of jobs we have to do things on a much smaller scale.
And on the ILA strike, the governor, Ron DeSantis, issued an executive order to use the National Guard and state police to keep the ports open or basically open up the ports despite the strike, even though the strike has now been called off. What's your reaction to that?
I mean, that's not unprecedented. During the Longshore strike in 2002, George Bush and Ashcroft threatened to call in Department of Homeland Security. So that's nothing new. It's par for the course. They've called it off already.
What do you think about them calling it off without a vote of the membership?
It's not good. I mean, they should have at least tried to get some kind of agreement on the automation, and then above and beyond that, I'm not a member of the ILA, but I understand every port has its own agreements. But they should have tried to nail down something on benefits. It seems like to me.
And the ILWU leadership, Dave Gonzalez, president of Local 34, announced, and the new president have said that they were not going to work diverted cargo going to the East Coast.
If they were able to figure out containers, they were being diverted to the West Coast. They could have either thrown up picket lines, refused to load or unload them. I understand that was threatened in the past or tried in 1977. Then they ended up doing it anyway. It's a little bit before my time, but I mean, one of the challenges now is just to figure out where that cargo is. If they bring it from the East Coast, are they going to mix it up on another ship? And how to track that is a challenge in itself. I don't know if they have a plan for doing that, but
well, what can Longshore?
If that's what they said they were going to do, I guess that's what they're going to do.
And what can Longshore workers and workers do to support the struggle that you're talking about of taking control of how the docks are organized, how the trade is organized?
I think that workers, people we need to take an interest in science and technology, what's going on with AI, and start, as we're educating ourselves, educating each other, bring this up in contract negotiations and ally ourselves with other social movements. We've done this with movement against police brutality, against trade, but with also the environmental movement, which we're very far apart from right now. Because like I said, I think that the employers are going to preempt us on that. Well, they already have, in bringing in automation under the guise of greenwashing. And this is something that needs to be, not only in our industry, but many blue collar industries, but we are certainly poised to be a part of that coalition. I think educating ourselves on this kind of technology, it is we can fight it, but we don't need to fear it as it's something that's completely incomprehensible.
Thank you for joining us. We've been talking with Joel Schor, member of ILWU Local 10, who has been doing research. He's been in the maritime industry for decades and been doing research about the introduction of technology and AI onto the docks. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Steve.